Hey, dude, this dog like stinks, man. Okay, groomer, do something about it, man.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey, all you pet stylists. You found the GroomPod. Welcome to our virtual salon. My name is Susie, and I'm your host. I'm a mobile groomer from Seattle, Washington, and anyone who knows me will tell you I love to talk, especially about my job. One of my favorite people to talk to is my friend and mentor and co-star of the show, Miss Barbara Bird.
Yo, Susie, how's it going this week?
Well, we woke up with a surprise snowfall this morning, so my afternoon of grooming has been canceled, which means I have a lovely half a day off. I love that. Welcome to episode 365 of the GroomPod, recorded on February 26th in 2023. I got it right this time. Snohomish, Washington, Tucson, Arizona, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This podcast is brought to you by our kind sponsors, Best Shot, Show Season, Evolution Shears, Groomore, and Stasco. And if you guys would like to tip your podcasters, you can do so by going to our website, thegroompod.com, and using the donation button and the Patreon button. We have a special guest. We have Helen Schaefer with us today. It's so exciting. We're going to talk to her. And first of all, What's New is brought to you by Groomore Software. If you haven't found Groomore, you're missing out. Groomore is an all-in-one software solution for your grooming business. Whether you are a solo mobile groomer or manage several shops, Groomore has everything you need. 24-hour online booking and forms, routing, credit card processing, reminders, Google Calendar and QuickBooks integration, and so much more. And the best customer service anywhere. Shop mobile or house call, Groomore has you covered. And they're giving us a free month. Just enter GroomPod22 in the coupon code. I never knew how important it was to have a table that goes down low. My original table, which I've had since 1998, it was tall and it went taller. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even have my whole lips on top of it because it would hit the ceiling of the trailer. But I got a new table. In case you didn't hear, my table pulled out of the floor. It was an exciting day. And I put a new base on my table that goes almost all the way down. I didn't even recognize what an advantage it is to be able to put big dogs down and see like the top line at eye level. It's like a whole new world. My grooming has improved with this table. I'm so proud of myself. Who knew? Do you drop your table all the way down, you guys? Oh, I should say, Helen is here with us and joining in the whole fun thing. So we're going to have three of us talking. We'll try not to talk over each other. Barbara, do you drop your table down to work on the bigger dogs?
Well, I adjust my height accordingly, but rarely do I groom with it all the way down.
Well, you're not doing huge dogs that much. I've got a lot of golden retrievers.
Yeah.
Some of them I'm related to, which,
Yeah.
like my niece got a big, goofy golden retriever. And the dogs react differently, too. Here's the other thing. My bathtub is at boob height because it was built ergonomically for me. But when I get big dogs in there, they tower over me. And my table, it was a single pedestal table. So when the dogs got on it, it shook like crazy. Like the dog would be standing up there and I'd have to lean against it. So for the past 20 years, I've been doing the big dogs in my boob high bathtub. So they were really high when I was drying them and stuff.
That's probably part of your shoulder problem.
Indeed. Indeed. But now, all of a sudden, they're in a more normal place for the human-dog relationship. Instead of dog being towering over the human and me struggling to, teaching everybody to turn is the only really way it worked for me. But really, it's a new world. They listen better. I can look them in the eyes. It's no more looking at their chest. Oh, God, it's a new world. I'm telling you. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And that was my week. That's all. I've just been living with the joy of my new table. Barbara, how was your week?
Oh, my week was kind of mediocre, but I did have one day that was kind of weird, and it was a day that Dave worked for me, and I went to work, and he was in a bad mood. And it just made me wish I worked alone. Because people don't take responsibility for how their mood, their sourness affects the people and the animals around them. And his day just kind of spiraled downward. He broke a pair of shears, he slammed stuff around and then broke. And I said, dude, are you all right? And, oh, I'm just having a bad week. Well, thanks a lot for, punishing me with it.
And everybody, the dogs, the whole thing.
So I just let him be. What choice do I have? I just let it be. And by the end of the day, when we had a hand stripper terrier together, I was like, oh no, today is the day that I hand strip across the table from this guy. By the time we got to that, he was okay. And we had a good across the table experience. We just got a bushel of hair out of this border terrier, and I charged it a bushel of money. And it was pretty good. But my best moment was yesterday. I groomed this is from my client, Pam, who used to be a cat customer. And I've talked about her before because she listens to us. She's also a listener. So we do have some pet owner client listeners that tune in. And she has this King Charles Spaniel mix rescue that is the happiest dog alive. The dog is so happy that it wags its tail so much and smiles at me so much that it's real hard for me to trim the back end of it because it's smushing the hair with its tail. We started out grooming her. She didn't want me to do anything other than the paws, because I think she was afraid I would do this groomer transformation. She wouldn't recognize her dog. That's what happens sometimes. But I just did a few little things, and she liked what I did. So yesterday, she gave me permission to do whatever I wanted. And I just tidied the dog up real nicely, but didn't drastically change anything. For example, she had hair on the front of her legs that just didn't really work for a nice shoulder and leg setup. And so I took that off with a snap-on comb. You didn't even notice that I had done that, but it just made her look more intact. And I scissored her furnishings some, but I didn't shave the legs down or anything. And then she had a tail that was so straggly. It had hairs like my fingers wide apart, just sticking out. And I just trimmed her tail fairly tight, and it looked like it should. She was so happy. And that's the kind of thing that just makes my freaking day. Just to take a mutt like that and make it, she showed me a picture of her dog at daycare, and she goes to this daycare place. It's a private home daycare, and they have all of these kind of Australian Shepherd retriever dogs, bigger dogs than Mulligan. And somehow this woman who owns it gets all these dogs to stand on these steps, and she takes a group picture. And they're all looking at the camera. It's such a good photo. And here's little Mulligan in the middle of two Australian Shepherds. And she says, I always see these pictures she sends every week. It looks like her mommy forgot it was picture day. And she was so happy with my tidying up. She can't wait for her to be in the picture again, So that's the kind of thing. Doesn't have to be a major breed standard, I did the terrier right kind of thing. It's the small stuff. When you use your skills to delight the customer, that makes my day.
I did forget something.
You did?
Yeah, I did a cat yesterday that had a list of instructions, which that's fine. I love a list of instructions because it focuses you to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
It was a snowshoe, which is a doodle of cats. And they're nice cats, pretty beautiful, lovely cats. And apparently had constant ear infections, so they have gooey ears on the cat, and it has a lot of hair, so they want the hair off and blah, blah, blah. I get there, and the cat's ears are perfectly fine. No infection. Maybe they've been working on it for long enough, but why are they continuing to put greasy crap in this cat's ears then? I didn't go there because this is the first time I met them, because I'll still take cats. I'll take anybody's cats. So the other complaint on their little list was that the cat was really oily and greasy. Oily, greasy, yucky hair. They've never combed the cat. The cat was a web of undercoat and greasy, dirty, yucky, lifelong of undercoat stuck underneath this cat. I actually had to comb it before I could cut it with a reasonable length comb. But what do? I wanted to say, hey, well, I did. I came in with a show season foaming pet wash that they could wash the cat's ears with to try and cut it back. And I said the ears look great. And then the other thing was I took the cat comb, the funny two teeth, one teeth, two teeth, one teeth cat comb.
The de-shedding cat comb.
I showed that to them, and then I showed a coarse comb to them. And I said, do you ever comb your cat? No, we don't comb your cat. Well, I said, I think the reason you're feeling the cat is greasy is because you're not combing the stuff out of the cat. And here's your assignment. If you guys, I'll see you in 3 months, comb your cat every day.
Your
Start
mission,
now.
should you accept it,
But I
is
so
to comb the cat.
Yeah, I so wanted to dish out a whole ton of great advice.
Yeah, you have to be careful. You have to button your lip a little bit first time and eke it out over the first few visits.
So you got a tool, didn't you?
So I have a new tool, and I got this tool online Home Depot. I was looking for something else, and this popped up. I guess I bought some kind of a pet thing from them before, and it's called a gyrator swivel undercoat rake. And what appealed to me was that it was compact. So you can hold it in your palm, and it's got a double set of staggered undercoat pins. So it's a staggered comb rake thing. And the trick is that it's got a grip. It's got a handle that you put your fingers in. How would you describe this handle?
I would say it's an oval loop that attaches to the back of the brush, which is also an oval. And you can put your hand through it and it moves. I mean, you can ratchet.
And then you can ratchet it. Yeah, right. You can adjust it to many different angles. It's got a little push button click thing. It clicks into place, so it's not going to move on its own, but you can get many angles out of it. You can hold it. You can hold it like this
with your funny shaped arthritic hands.
For people that are struggling with using regular combs and brushes all the time and I found that if I use different tools, if I rotate around the tools, I have less pain. That's the bottom line. I have less pain than when I just use the same tool over and over and over again all day long. So I bought this. It was under $20. So
I hope so.
I thought,
okay, I'm cheap. I can't help it.
Well, come on, it's not China. Although I did get a new, really beautiful 8-inch shear from China for under $20 that Helen, I'm buying shears from China because I can't get anything sharpened well around here. And the last time I sent out shears for sharpening, they came back they were sharpened, but they weren't packed well for shipping. And one was lost. One of my original Arius Eichert German shears was lost, and it was just a hardship. I wasn't happy at all. So I'm very leery about shipping out shears again. And the local sharpening situation is just really bad. So I'm just buying new ones. I mean, for $27, it's going to cost me $25 to have my Chris Christensen shears
sharpened.
Sharpened. So plus shipping, plus shipping back and forth. So I might as well buy a new pair. And, I've just found these Chinese scissors off of AliExpress are fine. I mean, I don't know how long they're going to last, but they're going to last at least as long as a sharpening would.
Oh, I was gonna say, I understand the not wanting to send your shears out. One time a sharpener had an assistant and they sent it to a place they didn't work at anymore with the name of a different groomer on it. And unfortunately for me, the owner and that groomer had a big falling out and she tossed all of my sharpening in the dumpster.
Ah!
Yeah. And I hadn't worked there for like a year. It wasn't like I had just left.
Wow.
That's criminal.
Yeah.
Isn't that criminal?
Yeah, the sharpener replaced all of my things, but one pair of the thinners that I had sent out were irreplaceable. They didn't make that line anymore.
Yeah, see,
And
that's the thing.
yeah, I've never found a pair of thinners I liked better than that. And I know it's probably just in my mind that those thinners were that good, but it really makes me mad every time I think about it.
Yep, I'm grateful that Randy comes through Seattle, Tacoma every year because I can go a year. His sharpening is so good. I'm excited to see what he says about the 2 pairs of my AliExpress shears that I bought to test. Because one of them seems to be holding just fine. The really nice ones with the funny plastic handles, those are the bomb. I love those shears.
I knew you would.
I know.
I knew you would because they're so lightweight and you have such damaged hands. Who would have thought that the scissor diva that I am, I would like this plastic handled shit from China. But, but look it. iGroom was selling these shears for mega bucks, and I'm sure they're the same.
They're fantastic. They hold an edge. But the other ones I got, which was a super curve, did not hold their edge. And I'm just interested to see what it is that's the difference, what Randy tells me, because he is a master.
Yeah, Randy actually, well, we're both in Pennsylvania, but because I see him at the shows, I feel more confident giving him my sharpening there.
Yep.
So he just did all of my blades, actually. So one of the things that I found out from a different sharpener that I was talking to at a specialty is that sometimes it's the mechanic in the inside of how they're actually held together. I had a pair of shears with a really fancy decorative dial, and they showed me there's like a little screw that helps hold that decorative piece on, but it completely makes the shears like unsharpenable.
Surprise.
And they tried and they showed me in front of me, they like resharpened them, and the tips, it's a super curve as well. And the tips will not cut. They just, no matter how many times they tried to redo it in front of me. And she's like, it's the screw. It's like, once that little, it's not the original factory metal, or like once you take it apart, it's never going to go back together again. Kind of, like a lot of things that we do in our life. Don't ever take it apart.
Those little ornamental details always fall off. They fall
Yeah.
off. Everything that I've ever had stuck on my, then you're stuck with like the thing that used to hold the gem on there or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks stupid. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm always a function over beauty kind of person.
I know, and I learned the color dipped shears. They just don't hold up as well as just the plain silver,
Yeah.
stainless do.
I think a lot of it too is that because a lot of the shears that are sold in the US are from China, and they are kind of value shears. They're not a really good high metal, and you can put 44C on the back of any scissor, because I could print my name on any scissor. I just need to pay to have them print my name on it. And that's on None Development. I just ordered it out of a catalog. And the only way you would know that it's not a high quality shear is if you actually went and had the metal tested. And like, who has time or money or like mistrust enough to do that?
Good point.
Yeah.
There's bogus information floating around in the marketing of shears as well as products.
Yep. So I'm going to date myself.
In this crowd, it doesn't matter.
Barbara, you're one of the first webinars that I ever took, because I did the Beyond Suds and Cents and the All About Shears from back on groomers.net.
Wow.
I have my books. They were up here. I think I actually put them back down in my groom room, but I'm in my office right now. But yeah, and I always show people the Beyond the Suds and Scents book because I was like, look at all this information, and this is why we buy like the shampoos we do at the shop and stuff. So I just want you to know that because you really did have like a huge impact very early on in my career.
Wow, thank you.
That gets a ding.
Jeez.
Definitely.
I'm always so I don't know, like I guess I just underestimate myself too much all the time. And even though I try not to do that, it's just kind of an automatic thing. I need to be reminded. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was back like I don't even remember. It was way before Zoom and Facebook and all that. So I mean that was way back in the day. And
07, 08, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The super cool thing about Barbara is you can take that class way back when, and she's continuing to learn and grow and change and develop. So if you take that class again, you're going to see the newest version and the newest thinking. And because the beauty industry and we are kind of a sideways part of that is constantly evolving and changing. And Barbara really keeps up with it, which is not necessarily traditional in our industry. And as a matter of fact, we're going to talk about that in our next segment right after this. Let me tell you about Best Shot's newest addition to the Ultramax Pro line. Ultramax Hair Hold is a flexible hairspray that can be layered on for a stronger hold. Ultramax Hair Hold Spray is great, but my favorite new product is called the Max, and I won't groom without it. It's a fragrance-free ultra-concentrate conditioner and detangler. It reduces drying time and handles undercoat and tangles like magic. Just a few drops in the final rinse or spray it on and dry it in. Contact your favorite Best Shot distributor or learn more online at bestshotpet.com. Grooming success begins with Best Shot in your tub. Made from the best stuff on earth.
Chris Bear Anthony here, visiting the GroomPod. So, if you know me, you know how much I love my Evolution shears. They are the only shears I actually use. So check out all the options, including customizable non-swivels, at evolutionshears.com and give Abby a shout with any questions you might have. GroomPod listeners get $10 off and free shipping with the code GroomPod, so check them out today. Your hands will thank you.
Ready, groomers? Here comes our first appointment. So the real reason I dragged Helen over here to our show is because I heard a groomer problems that she did on Groomer Town Hall, which I usually don't get to catch the whole of. Like this morning I saw like 10 minutes and then I had to go do this and feed the horse and all this other crap. But I actually was able to sit through a whole one because Barbara was doing her webinar at that time. And she was talking about the state of the trade shows and continuing education and all of that. And this has always been something that Barbara and I have talked about, well, endlessly, really. The state of our trade shows is interesting. There are some independent shows, but a lot of the shows are run by one company. And the thing that is really my biggest pet peeve is the way they pay or don't pay the speakers. And Helen, you kind of went off on that. I'm going to hand this over and you go, girl, and we'll just pop in.
Okay. So yes, I was talking about the continuing education because I've only been competing. This is starting my 10th year of competing. The Atlanta Pet Fair, which is now Groomed, was my actual first trade show. And I went 4 months after I started grooming. Grooming's my second career. And I went to this trade show. I stayed with somebody that I had met on groomers.net, complete internet stranger. We didn't even use real names back then. I had the best time. And I'm really grateful to that experience because I think it was instrumental in making me the groomer that I am today. But I've been around now I've been grooming for, this will be 17 years in April. And I have seen how it's changed. Even pre-COVID, trade shows were a little different. There's a couple major companies that run them, and the largest of them all it used to be like such an honor to be like a judge there. People would be like, I'm judging at this show, I'm speaking at this show, and it was a huge deal. And now over the years, and I understand business is business and you have to cut costs, but a lot of the speakers are just selected kind of at the beginning of the year around October. You're supposed to send a list in of the topics you'd like to cover and all of the shows that you are already planning on attending. And that's where the problem comes in, because while that's happening, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there is more opportunities and more seminars in general at those shows for people to speak, the problem comes in where on the other half of where you're getting your speakers is from vendors. And a lot of vendors are being consolidated. They're being bought. There's some mergers. There's a company called Nexus that bought a lot of the major shampoo companies, and then they've done away with their brand ambassadors. So they may be internet brand ambassadors, but they're not paying these people to attend the shows. And so then it puts that burden of, oh, if you want to do this, you need to pay your way and then work for us.
And it's prohibitively expensive to pay for your own travel.
Yes. I compete. I made Groom Team in 2021. My ultimate goal is to make the travel team. And if I added it up, I probably spend $15,000 a year on that. That is my major hobby, my major investment. I bought my van 2.5 years ago, and I have put 70,000 miles on it.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's a lot of time off. I thankfully have a wonderful, supportive employer. I still groom, but I also have an operations role, so I can do that virtually. And so I am able to virtually work from the trade shows. Sometimes when I'm not in the ring, if it's a travel day and I'm traveling with somebody, I'll work in the passenger seat while they drive. But it's a sacrifice. And not a lot of people can make that sacrifice, especially if they have families. Like, I made the decision not to have children when I was 20. I was like, that's not for me. This is my entire life. And that's why I can do this. But it still is, it wears you down. And if you're not being paid to be there, or at least getting some kind of financial help, and the company will pay you for your seminar, but if you're only doing one and it's $200 an hour, and you spent $1,800 getting there, why would you go? Right. And that's where we're really running into issues, because a lot of great speakers with like really great information aren't interested in spending that much money to go hang out at a trade show for a weekend to maybe speak.
And that's why you don't see me there.
Right.
That's exactly it. And it fosters people speaking who are not really at a level to be imparting the information, because what they're doing is representing their product at a trade show. That is not who we want to learn from. Those are not the people we're trying to learn from to better ourselves as groomers. Those are the people who are trying to sell us the products, and it's just backwards to have them be the people who are teaching us. It doesn't make sense to me. It drives me crazy. And because they won't pay in anything but here, have a table, you have to be selling something. A book, a video is not enough. You actually have to have a product line of some sort, or in your case, be sponsored by someone who has a product line where they've got a booth that it drives me nuts.
Yeah. And I will say, last year was the first year I was ever sponsored in my 10 years. So I was doing this on my own, and I did speak, at the shows because I was traveling and I was available a little bit more than I did last year. And I'm 95% sure I'm never going to be invited to speak again. But
did you say the F word? Because that'll take you out.
No.
Only in the South.
Okay.
Only in the South. In the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, you can drop it. In California, you can drop it. But don't drop it in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Or Dallas.
No. And it's terrible because I'm from the Mid-Atlantic. So, like, I'm from Philly. My first word was not a polite word. So my grandfather was doing physical therapy. We'll leave it at that. Over my baby bouncer. But the speaking at the trade shows, there are a lot of people who don't want to speak at the trade shows anymore for a myriad of reasons. Some of it is because they do have to take that time away from their family, or the financial obligation of getting there, or having to work a trade show booth, which is exhausting. That's what I'm kind of doing this year, is I'm working the Pedigree grooming booth, the supply company, and, you know, doing 1 or 2 competitions. And I did 1 competition at Pasadena, worked the booth, and I was in bed by 8 p.m. every night because I was exhausted. It's exhausting talking to people.
When I worked the year for Chris Christensen, I spoke and was at the booth, and they wouldn't let me sit down. And and I had a bad back and a bad knee, and I just wanted to sit on a stool. I didn't have to be all way down out of so that I could be at eye level with people, and they could come up and I could exchange with them. And as far as I was concerned, I could perform perfectly, you know, but they didn't. No, we stand here to do this job. That's ridiculous. We teach groomers to know when it's time to sit down. But they won't sit down in a booth. And then the other thing is that I wanted to guide people to the tool that was going to satisfy them. But they would just die if I would say, don't buy that, buy this. You know? Oh no, you just got to let them buy what they want to buy. They would, and then also sell them the other thing. But it was agony. And the other thing I have an issue about qualifications and topics, because people get forced into speaking on topics for which they're not totally qualified, and they just do their best and they pass on information that they were passed on, and so on and so forth, and how they learned what they learned back in 1996 when they certified. It's not always up to date, accurate information. And there's a difference between a competitor that also speaks and a person that's committed to becoming an educator. You know, not all people who groom well are good teachers.
Right. No, I completely agree with that, because I actually was having a conversation with a different, like one of the independent shows coordinators. And they said to me, they're like, well, can you teach? And it's a legitimate question. And I'm confident that I am a good teacher.
I can second that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm not always confident in my grooming skills. Even though I've done well for myself, I know I have a lot to learn. And I think that one of the skills of a quality educator or quality teacher is, like Susie said, Barbara, you never stop learning. I'm never going to stop learning. Pina never stops learning. There are people that are teaching that have just been like, well, I'm as good as I'm ever going to get, and I have nothing left to learn. That's not the right attitude for an educator. And I think that that's really speaking to qualifications and things like that. I've seen people teach breed specific seminars that are not known for that breed, that barely do that breed. You're never going to see me teach an English Springer Spaniel seminar, ever. The only 2 breeds of dogs that I would feel confident teaching, is like a modern on a poodle, a Kerry Blue, or a Cocker Spaniel. And I'll be the first to admit, my Cocker Spaniels aren't as good as I want them to be.
Oh, but they're beautiful.
That doesn't mean they won't be. Thank you. Thank you again. But they're not, I know I can do better. And I can teach what I know. And yes, I have had a lot of success with them, and they're very pretty, and I do a really nice job, but it's not as good of a job as I can do because I'm still learning them. There's a lot to know. They're very different from dog to dog and color to color, and it's a challenge. But it's those pigeonholing people. Well, you're popular, so you're going to bring people in, so like teach this, or oh, you did like a live on that. Like I've done little mini videos and stuff. Like I like Asian fusion, I dabble. I've done like a little live for Groomer TV on that. I've done a live on like a schnauzer pattern on a pet, because that's one of honestly my favorite salon cuts, is a really well done schnauzer, right? A clip schnauzer. But I'm not going to teach a hand strip schnauzer. It's not something that I do regularly enough. And I think a lot of the problems that we're having with the education, and quite frankly, it's repetitive because it's the same people in the same classes, just with different titles sometimes, is that people are getting bored and they're not learning what they think they should learn. And I don't think that we have honest reviews of speakers. I think some people take it personally if they get a negative review, right? Nobody wants criticism. We all want to think that we're like flawless and everybody learned and they were completely wowed by us, right? But that's not reality. And if I taught a class and somebody went into my class expecting to learn X, Y, and Z, and they only learned Y and Z, it's helpful for me to know that they expected to learn X, because maybe I can incorporate it into a future class. And I think that's really being an educator, is if someone did take a repeat of my class, I want them to learn something new from that next one.
Right. Updated information. There are people that are teaching the same seminar now that they were teaching 10 years ago or longer. You know, like, ugh.
No, I agree. And if anyone's attended my classes, I have PowerPoints, but I don't put the information on the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint slides are for me to remember what my next talking point is about. And so I think that helps keep it fresh, because once I learn something, if I have an interaction with the audience and they say, actually, I know this, maybe then my next one, I say in my seminar, someone from my last seminar said this to me and I researched it and X, Y, and Z now. And I think it's such an important skill to have. It is something you can learn, but it takes practice and also being comfortable enough knowing you're not perfect and that everything you say is not the Bible, to be able to grow. We get a lot of people that are like, but I'm popular, so I have to be right. I don't have to be right. It helps that I'm right most of the time. Like, that really boosts my confidence, but I am honest enough with myself to know that I'm not always right. There's always another perspective to look at or something else to learn. It doesn't mean I'm going to change my mind about something, or I might say like, okay, well, you think this way and I think this way. And although I'm going to say this thing in my seminar, I will mention that people might not agree with me, but this is from my experience.
The most powerful words in the world are I don't know. And it's okay to say, I don't know, but then go home and find it. Go look it up, do some research, add to your program, if you will. Yeah, it's all good.
Exactly.
Hang on a sec. We're going to run another quick break and then we'll be right back. Sometimes my clients don't like a walking air freshener. When these crazy people request a scent-free option, I go right to Show Season.
I think that everybody should have Show Season True Tearless Shampoo and Show Season Hypo Conditioner on hand. Show Season has formulated True Tearless Shampoo with alternative surfactants that are less irritating, but still clean very well. And the Hypo Conditioner is one of the best fragrance-free conditioners in the market.
And if you guys would like to find some Show Season True Tearless or Hypo Conditioner, go to showseasongrooming.com.
Hey, Susie, I've got a new thing that I do, that I actually combine something from two of our sponsors. You want to hear about it?
Yes.
So I have been working with a fragrance-free leave-in conditioner detangler by using a half an ounce of Show Season Hypo Conditioner and a little bit of the Max from Best Shot. And it just makes for an excellent fragrance-free detangler that has some greater conditioning scope than just the silicone. So I just kind of created that on my own, and I'm very happy with it. I take a half an ounce of the Best Shot Max diluted 16:1 and add it to a half an ounce of Show Season Hypo Conditioner, and then fill it a 16-ounce spray bottle with distilled water, shake it up real good before I use it every time, and voila.
Excellent deal. There are independent shows that we can go to amongst the nation here and even internationally, I'm sure, that will help us to support people that pay their speakers. Well, there's the Teton show. There's one in Colorado Springs. That's an independent show. Who else is there?
There's the Pet Pro Classic, which is ISCC Dallas. There's the Whitman show, which is ran by the Whitman's company, Nick Sklar. There is Charm City Grooming in Maryland.
There's one in British Columbia. I'm not sure what they call it.
That's the West Coast Groom Fest in support of that live stream, which, we were talking about earlier. I did start a Facebook group, which is independent grooming education and competitions. So I have a pretty active list there. I would say most of the shows in Europe and Australia and South America are independently run. Even if they're sponsored by a larger corporation, so like Pet Society, which owns Hydra, does like a grooming one in Brazil, and it's a big, big show. They don't own all of the shows, which is good because like there's the Toronto, Ontario grooming show coming up, the TOG show as it's affectionately called. That's in the first weekend of May. They're having Amy Manser come over as a judge. And if it was any other weekend of the year, I would move heaven and earth to get there. But it's the Bichon national specialty. And I have a little show Bichon. And I already made plans to go to that.
It's hard when things like that conflict.
I am super bummed because Amy Manser is like the best cocker. Like we always talk about Mackenzie here in the US. Amy Manser is like the best cocker groomer in the entire world. She won Best in Show at Groomania in 2017. Groom Team England won gold this year. She did the cocker there. So she has such a unique way of doing her Cocker Spaniels, but I just want to see it in person because I've taken webinars and I just had to watch what she did like 20 times and I still am like not getting it. So
webinars are another way we can support independent speakers. Barbara can do those. We don't even have to travel for that. And Mary Oquendo has a large amount of information out there, lots of webinars.
PositiveEd.com. Yeah, I'm a content contributor for there. I actually may have a little soon to be announced project with her in regards to that. So I'm hoping to get that started going over the summer. But she's so supportive of up and coming groomers that want to be speakers, just really giving them a platform. She's the person who actually launched my speaking career. I don't want to say she kidnapped me to convince me to be a speaker, but the Pacific Northwest show, she gave me a ride back to the airport and I get in her car and I sit down and she's like, so I need to talk to you about something. And like the doors automatically click, but still it's like that movie moment where you're like on a bridge and she's like, I need to talk to you about something. And it was about speaking. She has a workshop to help you develop a program. So if anybody listening has something that they feel very passionately about and aren't sure where to start or how to actually go about developing your seminars, she's a great resource for that.
And she consolidates and makes available a lot of continuing education. We appreciate her for that. And so the state of our certification organizations are in flux as well.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but Helen just took a huge breath. It's an interesting time to be in the industry.
Interesting is an interesting choice of words.
I choose nice, polite words. That's my thing.
Yeah. I have been working on my ISCC certification for 15 years. And back in my day, you had to go proctor at a library, right? And so some things have changed and now you can do it online, which makes it easier. But because I had to drive 3 towns over for a library that had a proctor service, and which in Pennsylvania, 3 towns over is not like 20 minutes, it's like 45. I kind of put it on hold and I did my NDGAA. My sister was a groomer briefly. She attended Merrifield School of Pet Grooming. So we went down for a workshop in February because they had it at the school at the time. And she went and toured the school, and we had this like great weekend where I started my certification. She applied to the school. I completed my NCMG 7 or 9 years ago. I honestly have to look at my resume to tell you the year. And it's been such a near and dear organization in my life. And I actually at the Teton show, someone encouraged me to seek out to be a certifier for them. So that was kind of going to be one of my things that I looked into this year. And then it got sold. And much like how I talked about Nexus buying companies earlier, the AKC inevitably bought the certification portion of the NDGAA. And there's a lot of talk about it and how it's not changing, and oh, they're going to keep the integrity and this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, I don't think it's too early for any of us to know because they haven't done any testing. There hasn't been a lot of information. We're told it's been 2 weeks. It's been this many days. And honestly, I don't have anything against the AKC program. I'm actually one test away from finishing the AKC master program. I don't think that their own program is a master level, and that's okay. It's new. But Susie and Barb, I'm not gonna lie, I cried a lot when I first read the announcement. I'll probably get a little emotional about it because it meant so much to me.
It's rough. I mean, this is a rough takeover.
It is. And I don't think that it's that because the AKC took over. I think that, quite frankly, a lot of people feel betrayed, right?
Yep.
Because this was like an institution, and now it's no longer. And it's not like we're planning on moving on or anything. It was just boom, gone one day. It'd be like everyone's beloved celebrity dying, and
I know, like, it was like a death.
Yeah.
It hit me like a death. I think, what happened? I guess they got tired or old or something, like.
For me, it's a second death because I'm ICMG. So my organization died 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people actually remember IPG before Linda had it.
Right.
I was actually trying to explain to somebody how it used to be. And that's actually going all the way back to groomers.net. Like a lot of that original crew was on there, and we kind of watched it have a swan song in lifetime. And that's what I think I have a different perspective on the grooming industry, because I've been at the trade shows longer than most, but I've also started competing with what is considered like my generation of competition groomers. But I had already been at all the shows and seen all the things for almost a decade. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of much like I'm a millennial. I'm at that bridge where like I went and played outside until sundown. And then I also have a Android phone that I can use completely and understand computer coding. And so I think, yeah, it felt like a death. That's a great way to describe it. And I'm worried too, because a lot of the certification now, 2 programs are owned by the same company. And that, as much as they're like, we're going to keep them separate, that doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make business sense.
It doesn't make business sense, much like Nexus buying 3 different shampoo companies with 3 very extensive shampoo lines. There's no way you're going to keep all of those products. It doesn't make sense to be your own competitor. Vertical, sure, like Boss Pet Nation's great. They diversified so that they have all kinds of different things under their umbrella. That makes sense. But some of these other mergers, they don't. And that's where really I think where my worry comes from. And I'm trying to stay positive and keep an open mind. I'm not saying the NDJA program was perfect. It definitely could use a little dusting off and updating like everything else. But I do worry about groomers. And I'm not talking about today's groomers. I'm talking about the Chris Pulowskis, the Pinas, the Judy Hudsons, the Diane Betelacks, all those people that taught everybody that's in the ring now not being involved in it. And I'm not saying that they're not going to be given a voice, but I think when we're talking about certifying groomers, because there's always that shadow of legislation and licensing over us. And I am admittedly pro licensing because I think that we need to focus on safety and the safety of our pets in our care. And I don't think that a basic understanding of that is a bad thing. But the certification was a step towards that. And if groomers aren't involved in that, it's the same thing as letting lawmakers make our licensing requirements. Groomers should be involved in their own faiths.
Yep.
And that's really where my worry comes from, is that the people that are involved seemingly in this are not groomers. And how can somebody that is not a groomer certify a groomer? Do we want vets licensing us, or do we want groomers to write the licensing? And it's the same way with certification.
Amen. And yeah, I know. The other point that I have is that it's one thing to certify, but if there's no public relations going on of the value of certification, it's very hard for an individual just to promote their own value.
Mm-hmm.
There's none of that. I mean, I think that our fees for certifying ought to cover some kind of public relations, even a bumper sticker. Come on.
Right, right.
We need some kind of public education of the value of certification. And there's never been any. And there's never been any representation in Washington in the whole law. We don't have a lobbyist. We don't have a lobbyist. We need somebody with skills, lobbying skills, that knows our industry, that can represent us when stuff happens there. Last year, there was a major legislation updating the requirements for cosmetic manufacturers. The labeling, they're going to have to identify fragrance allergens on labels in 5 years. Everybody has to keep records of adverse events. We don't have any way to consolidate bad experiences of consumers, of pet owners in our industry. There's no a simple act of including animal grooming products under that legislation would have just set us up and brought us forward gigantically. There wasn't anybody in Washington to lobby for that inclusion of animal grooming products in that. There's just a lot missing, and it doesn't seem to be getting there. There's just this, it's getting less rather than more advanced. Yeah.
Right. No, I completely agree with that, because I have to explain to the company that I work for, I'm on the operations team. We have 25 groomers within 12 locations, and we have many more locations, but it's a vet-driven pet center, and it's a Philadelphia startup. I was the second groomer they ever hired. I actually complained my way to a job, which is the first time I ever did that. But they made me a role because I had solutions. And I've had to explain to them, my employees, co-workers, why they can't use certain products because there isn't a full label. Now, there's no guarantee that my full label has actually all the ingredients, because like you said, there's no regulation for animal products, but I refuse to use something that says coconut-based cleanser on it. I just absolutely do, because if there is a problem, we are first and foremost a vet hospital, and I can't tell a client dog, I don't know what I used on your dog because it's not on here. I can't say, well, it's a coconut-based cleanser. It doesn't make any sense. And saying all natural or paraben free, none of that, those are all marketing terms, and I don't care to hear that. I want something that works well and is gentle on the dogs. And I want to, yes, I understand everything can cause cancer and everything can poison you. You can die from drinking too much water. So I don't want to hear about any of that. I want to see the levels that it's in. I want to see the ingredients. I know I'm not a chemist, but I can kind of understand, all right, this is a really safe product. Every ingredient in a cosmetic has an exposure level, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see okay, if these are all ones, yes, sure. Just like you can mix two things together that are inert and cause an explosion. But generally speaking, we're not going to do that in a bottle, right, of shampoo that we're going to ship somewhere and have trucks blowing up everywhere. That would not be great for business. but I should be able to look at the ingredients and make a determination that, you know what, these are relatively safe, understanding that the order of the ingredients is generally what the volume is in there, and the first 5 ingredients are the most important, right?
Right.
Generally speaking. I, in good consciousness, can't groom a pet if I can't see those first 5 ingredients and they're actually ingredients. And I understand, again, like I am making a faithful leap that the companies that say I am disclosing all of my ingredients actually are. But I also believe that we use show season shampoos in our salons, and we use Melanie Newman, and we were using iGroom, but now it's getting a little...
Yeah, iGroom, that's another whole story. And I'm ready to come out and
Are you? Because we've been holding back on this for a long time.
Well, I'm ready, Susie, because I'm convinced that it's not going to be remedied, that their ingredients have been changed because of the acquisition. You know, instead of having very unique products with unique ingredients that were at a top level in the cosmetic industry, they now are more the same as everybody else.
Yeah, I actually used iGroom when I went to the Cocker specialty because the woman that I work for sells it. And I hadn't used it in a year, and it tore my hands up, and it never used to do that.
I believe it.
Regardless of the pet, like, and I know that's terrible to say, but I'm exposed to it multiple times per day. So why shouldn't I know what's in it?
Right. Amen. The exposure is a whole part of the risk equation. And it's the groomers and the bathers that are getting exposed the most, day in and day out, over and over again. The dog gets exposed once a week if it's a show dog, you know, but mostly every 4 to 6 weeks. One exposure, but we're getting multiple exposures per day, you know, and groomers that are doing hand washing are getting even more exposure because they're actually in the product. Whereas when I use my recirculator, like my hands are not getting in the product nearly as much as when I was massaging. This is just another reason why animal grooming, whoops, I just lost my sense of hearing here.
Whoops.
I'm wild about this, you know. This lack of legislation, that was because in the beginning, pet grooming wasn't a very big deal. You know, it was something that was the clients, even when I started in 1971, the clients were all from the foothills. They were all upper class and upper middle class people, which is a small portion. They were the 1%ers.
Right.
You know, that had the poodles and the cockers. And now it's boomed. It's exponentially greater. There's just hundreds of groomers that are being exposed to these products. Plus, hundreds of people at home are using these products without any education or training or ability to read a label. Come on, it's time.
It's time.
It's definitely time. And I mean, it's just scary knowing that like a lot of groomers don't realize that like the label that they're reading isn't a label. I can go downstairs, I can put a bunch of stuff in a pot, put it in some of these bottles that I just bought and sell it to you as pet shampoo. Right. I can tell you anything is in it. And unless I like give you my ingredients list, there's no way to check it. Everybody buys shampoo on the way it smells. It makes me bonkers, to be honest, because clean doesn't smell. Clean doesn't smell good, and it doesn't smell bad. It doesn't smell at all.
You're talking to the queen of fragrance over here, Miss Susie Scott, who buys everything by fragrance.
But I at least admit it's all for my own purpose.
The whole fragrance thing is another whole conversation, which we love to engage in because fragrance has taken over our culture. It's huge. Now you put extra fragrance beads in your clothing dryer, right? Do you do that, Susie?
They go in the wash.
Or in the dryer, but there's just fragrance added to everything. You add fragrance to the freaking toilet. Come on.
But on my dogs, like I'm just very conscious of that, is that they are smelling that fragrance too. So it can't just be for us. But I think like all of that, again, it can go back to the legislature, like we talked about, which we don't have a lobbying organization. The closest we have is that group that a few of the big ones belong to. But as I understand it, they don't really lobby for the pet industry as much as the animals, which is important, but also we do need, somebody speaking for us as pet professionals.
Yeah, there's nobody speaking for pet professionals. They're speaking for pet shops, PetSmart, and those, like retail pet things, like there's those organizations, but there's nobody representing us.
No.
They just want to restrict us. Then they want to have some veterinarian man come in and set up some rules for us gals. There's a lot of misogyny going on, and that's another whole pod. There's a lot of misogyny because of this business, our industry being a woman's work thing.
Mm-hmm. No, and I do agree with that, because I have seen some things, and I laugh at it sometimes, because I'm like, take it, it is. It's a very woman-led, woman-driven industry. And that's why I think, quite frankly, like the certifications are important, because that is our step. And I'm not saying that, obviously the AKC has very deep pockets and a household name. I think part of the problem with them now being in charge of what is our largest certification organization is that a lot of consumers don't have a view of what the AKC is. So they might recognize the name, the AKC, much like I recognize Cisco, but I don't know all of the things that Cisco does. Mm-hmm. They bring food, but they do like a whole lot of other things. And the AKC is not really great at promoting purebred dogs. So are they going to be really great at promoting groomers or certified groomers? Because to the point where we kind of got off on this is consumers don't know what a master groomer is. I've had 2 people ask me what that means in the 9 years that I've had that certificate hanging up on my wall. And that includes one of my company's investment firm people, and they're like, what's that? Because God bless all of the people that I work with. They are so proud of me and supportive. And they introduce me as, this is Helen Schaefer, our style services specialist and master groomer. And everyone's like, oh, okay, that's great. I think that they think it's just like a title I gave myself, like Overlord of Grooming at Heart and Paw,
Yeah, right.
That's what would be on my business card if I gave myself my own title. But like you said, they don't understand the value of certification, and they don't understand why a groomer should be certified. I mean, so many people are shocked that groomers aren't licensed. And certification was our way of kind of making our own version of that, where you had to choose to be a professional. You're not forced into doing that and obtaining any of that certification, but you choose to do it. I always tell people I always did it for myself. I started at PetSmart. I grew up in that like era of like the PetSmart groomers. It's died down a lot now, but it was really virulent. Sorry. I had a concussion a few years ago, so my brain picks the wrong words sometimes.
Wait till you get old.
Oh yeah, I know. No, it was like, I better get some, yeah. No, I know. It's just going to get worse. But that's why I tell people, I'm like, I'm enjoying my climate change right now, because by the time I'm like old enough for it to actually affect me, I'll probably have full on dementia and not know where I am. But it was very aggressive. And I do remember being looked down upon because I work where I work. And
I would have, I admit.
Yeah. I mean, people were not always kind about it. And I think I was so aggressive in getting knowledge and education that I don't want to say like I changed people's minds, but I know I did change some people's minds. I know some people that also started at PetSmart and have told me that like I inspired them. And I think that's really important, is because I do try to make room for corporate groomers because I was a project manager. I wasn't going to leave my cushy office job to go take a chance on shaving dog butts without a safety net. And I think that that's really where some of those corporate groomers are, is they need health insurance. They need like a minimal amount of, pay. And
everybody does, really.
Yeah, everybody does. The conversation's changed a lot since I started. And I went and I got my certification because I didn't want to just be a PetSmart groomer anymore. I wanted to prove that I objectively knew what I was doing, that other people saw my skill level and that I had it. I did it for me, and I did it as part of that healing of being, constantly in my mind, I'm just a PetSmart groomer. We all have self-limiting talk, and I think it was so easy back then to listen to everybody and be like, oh, well, they just started at PetSmart. They don't know what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying every PetSmart groomer knows what they're doing. I'm not saying that every independent groomer knows what they're doing. We've all been around the industry long enough to know that there are no black and whites in this world. But I was very lucky. My salon manager had been a groomer for 30 years, and she came to PetSmart for the benefits.
There's all kinds.
Yep. Yeah, there's all kinds.
There's all kinds.
I think certification, it's a way to prove that we know what we're doing, that we are professionals, that we're choosing to be professional, because this is a career you don't have to choose to be professional. You can shave dogs now with a 7-blade all day long and still make plenty of money.
It's true.
In fact, maybe more.
Probably tons more.
Really, maybe more.
A lot of those Florida groomers I know, everybody wants a 7 because that's what they're used to. And they do like 15 dogs a day and are done before me. And I'm like, I do 7 to 10. Now 10's like a high number for me.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. But I do 7 to 10, and I'm never done before 6 o'clock, ever, unless I'm doing like 3 dogs.
Listen, I hand strip terriers.
Yeah.
I hand strip terriers and get 125, and somebody could have done 3 or 4 little dogs
in that time. Yeah.
At that time, and it's my choice. I got my certification because my customers started calling me a master groomer, and I felt guilty that I didn't really have the credentials. So I said, you know what? I know I'm good, and I know that I'm masterful, and I know that I've studied breed profiles, but I want that, and I got it for myself. But it should be more valuable. The work it takes to certify, it should be more valuable to the public than it is. And the public, the poor public, they don't know one groomer from another.
No,
they don't know. They just either have good experiences or bad experiences, and there's no way to sort that through and predict what the next experience is going to be. I feel sorry for people who move to a new city or town and have to pick a new groomer. A good groomer, it's like picking a good babysitter and hairstylist in one person, right?
Yeah.
And we're like at an hour and a half, so I should probably wrap this thing up.
Probably quit.
Not to mention there are 2 tiny little baby rats downstairs that I haven't met yet, and I'm so excited to have them. So they did make an appearance over here on the left side of the screen for a moment.
I noticed you were distracted. Is that what that was?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go down and meet the new babies. Thanks for being here, Helen. Where can people find you if they're looking for you?
Thanks for having me. I am very Facebook active. So it's Helen Schaefer, SCHAEFER on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram at @another_groomer. I work in Philadelphia. You can always find me on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, or email. It's helenj.schaefer@yahoo. But I'm usually fairly available, even if it takes me a minute to answer your messages, because I do work full time, so sometimes a lot of overtime too. Self-inflicted.
We're just so tickled to death that you came on and spent some time with us. Barbara, anything you need to add?
No, I think I'm done. I'm spent.
All right, stick a fork in us. We are done.
It was great, Helen.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Remember to support our sponsors, and happy grooming, everybody. See you next week on the GroomPod. Bye-bye now.
Take care of yourselves. We love you.
Bye.